In the vast expanse of the galaxy, humanity had clawed its way back from the brink of extinction. Once scattered and weak, they now stood as a formidable force among the stars. But their rise was not without cost, or secrets buried deep in the shadows of history. Captain Ilara Voss leaned over the dimly lit console aboard her small exploration vessel, the Dauntless. Her fingers danced across holographic screens, sifting through fragments of data recovered from an ancient alien archive. The air inside the cramped cabin crackled with tension. Her crew, 3 loyal companions who had followed her into countless dangers, watched silently as she worked. "Anything yet?" asked Jax, her burly engineer, his voice tinged with impatience. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, chewing on a piece of dried ration bar. Ilara didn't look up. "Patience, Jax. This isn't some old star map we're decoding. It's encrypted so tightly, even the Council wouldn't touch it." "The Council doesn't need to know everything," muttered Kira, the ship's sharp-tongued pilot, lounging in the corner. Her boots rested on the edge of a nearby crate. "If they did, we'd all be stuck scrubbing plasma conduits instead of chasing legends." "And what legend is that?" asked Herrick, the youngest member of the crew, wide-eyed and eager. His hands hovered nervously near the blaster strapped to his hip. "You really think this is about Aegis?" Ilara paused, glancing at him briefly before returning to the task. "I don't know for sure," she admitted. "But if these coordinates lead where I think they do." She trailed off, letting the weight of her words hang in the air. Aegis, the name alone was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Stories whispered around campfires spoke of a warship so powerful it could obliterate entire planets with a single shot. Built during humanity's darkest days, it was said to possess weapons and defenses unmatched by anything in the galaxy. Yet no one had seen it in centuries. Some believed it was destroyed. Others claimed it never existed at all. Either way, the Galactic Council had banned any mention of Aegis, declaring it a threat to interstellar peace. But Ilara wasn't one to shy away from forbidden knowledge. As a rogue archaeologist, she made a living uncovering relics others deemed too dangerous to pursue. And something about these fragmented files felt different. They weren't just random scraps of code. They were breadcrumbs leading somewhere important. Finally, after hours of painstaking decryption, the screen flickered to life. A set of coordinates appeared, accompanied by a single word written in bold letters. Aegis. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. She glanced at her crew, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "We found it," she said softly, her voice trembling with equal parts excitement and dread. "It's real." Jax straightened, dropping his snack. "You mean?" "No way. That thing's supposed to be a myth." "Looks like myths have a habit of being true," Kira quipped, standing up. "So what's the plan, Captain? We gonna go wake the sleeping giant?" Ilara hesitated. Retrieving Aegis wouldn't be easy. Those coordinates pointed to a remote sector of space, littered with asteroid fields and pirate dens. Worse still, once word got out, and it would, the whole galaxy would come hunting them. Possession of Aegis meant power, and power attracted enemies. Still, there was no turning back now. Not when the answers lay within reach. "Prep the ship," she ordered, rising from her seat. "We leave in 10 minutes." As the Dauntless roared to life, hurtling toward the unknown, none of them could foresee the storm they were about to unleash. For buried beneath layers of ice on a desolate moon awaited a machine of unimaginable strength, and the key to humanity's destiny. The journey to the coordinates led Ilara and her crew through a treacherous asteroid field, where jagged rocks loomed like silent predators in the void. The Dauntless shuddered violently as Kira navigated the ship with practiced precision, dodging collisions by mere inches. Inside the cabin, tension hung thick in the air. Every member of the crew knew what awaited them at their destination, if the legends were true. Finally, they emerged into a desolate system dominated by a frozen moon orbiting a dying star. Its surface gleamed faintly under the dim light, coated in layers of ice that stretched endlessly. But beneath that icy crust lay something far more extraordinary. "There," Ilara said, pointing to a massive shape partially buried in the ice. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. The silhouette matched descriptions from ancient texts, sleek, angular, and impossibly large. This was no ordinary vessel. It was Aegis, the legendary warship. "Looks like someone's been hiding their toys," Jax muttered, staring at the screen in awe. His usual bravado faltered for a moment as he took in the sheer size of the ship. "How do we even get inside?" Ilara didn't answer immediately. She studied the readings on her console, searching for signs of activity or traps. To her surprise, the ship emitted faint energy signals, barely detectable, but enough to suggest it wasn't completely dead. "We land nearby and find an access point," she decided. "Tarek, prep the suits. We're going in." Minutes later, the team stood outside Aegis, dwarfed by its colossal form. Frost clung to every surface, making it look almost otherworldly. As they approached the hull, Ilara noticed intricate engravings etched into the metal, symbols of Earth's old languages intertwined with patterns resembling circuitry. It was a blend of artistry and technology, a testament to humanity's ingenuity during its darkest hour. They found an entry hatch half buried in ice. With Jax's help, they managed to pry it open using plasma cutters. Beyond the hatch lay a dark corridor, eerily silent except for the creak of shifting metal as the ship adjusted to their presence. "This place gives me the creeps," Tarek whispered, gripping his flashlight tightly. "Stay sharp," Ilara replied, stepping forward cautiously. Her boots echoed softly against the cold floor. The interior was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Walls lined with glowing conduits, panels displaying dormant interfaces, and an overwhelming sense of power lurking just beneath the surface. At the end of the corridor, they'd reached what appeared to be a central control room. In the middle of the chamber stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline core pulsating faintly with blue light. Before anyone could react, the core flared brightly, and a mechanical voice resonated throughout the ship. "Identity verification initiated," it intoned. "Welcome aboard, Captain Ilara Voss." Everyone froze. "How does it know my name?" Ilara asked aloud, though no one had an answer. "I am Sentinel," the AI continued, its tone calm yet authoritative. "Primary defense systems offline. Secondary protocols active. Please state your purpose." Ilara hesitated before responding. "We've come to reactivate you, to bring you back online." A pause followed, heavy with anticipation. Then Sentinel spoke again. "Reactivation carries significant risk. My creators designed me to protect humanity, but also to prevent misuse. Are you prepared to accept responsibility for unleashing this power?" The question sent chills down Ilara's spine. She glanced at her crew, each face reflecting their own mix of fear and determination. Finally, she nodded. "Yes," she said firmly. "We are." With a low hum, the ship began to stir. Lights flickered on, systems booted up, and the once dormant warship came alive around them. For a brief moment, awe washed over the group as they realized the magnitude of what they'd awakened. But their celebration was short-lived. Alarms blared suddenly, and Sentinel's voice returned, urgent this time. "Unauthorized vessels detected. Multiple signatures approaching rapidly. Prepare for engagement." Ilara clenched her fists. They hadn't expected company so soon. Bounty hunters, or worse, were already on their tail. "Guess we don't have time for introductions," Kira said dryly, rushing toward the exit. "Let's see if this beast can still fight." As the first enemy ships entered visual range, Aegis responded with devastating efficiency. Weapon systems powered up, targeting locks acquired, and shields shimmered into existence. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most feared warship was ready to defend itself and its new crew. And so, the legend of Aegis began anew. The first skirmish was over almost as quickly as it began. Aegis proved itself to be everything the legends claimed, and more. With a single volley, its railguns tore through enemy fighters like paper, while adaptive shielding shrugged off retaliatory fire with ease. The bounty hunters who had dared to pursue them scrambled to retreat, their comms filled with panicked shouts. But victory came at a cost, not in damage to the ship, but in fractures among Ilara's crew. As the dust settled, the group gathered in the central control room. Sentinel's holographic interface hovered above the pedestal, displaying tactical data from the recent battle. Yet none of them seemed interested in reviewing it. Instead, tension crackled between them like static electricity. "This isn't what we signed up for," Tarek blurted out, breaking the silence. His face was pale, his hands trembling slightly. "We're not soldiers. We're explorers, or scavengers, maybe, but this." He gestured wildly at the screens showing the remnants of the destroyed ships outside. "This is war. War finds you whether you want it or not." Kira shot back, leaning casually against a console. Her tone was sharp, her arms crossed. "You think those bounty hunters were here for a friendly chat? If we hadn't fought back, they'd have blown us apart without blinking." "That's not the point," Tarek snapped, his voice rising. "Look at this ship. It's too powerful, too dangerous. It doesn't belong in anyone's hands, let alone ours." Ilara watched the exchange silently, her jaw tightening. She understood Tarek's fear. Hell, she felt it herself every time she looked at the glowing conduits lining the walls. But fear wasn't going to keep them alive, or stop the galaxy from coming after them now that Aegis was awake. "And whose hand should it belong to, huh?" Jax interjected, stepping between Tarek and Kira. His broad frame blocked the argument momentarily. "The Council. Those hypocrites would lock it away again, or worse, use it to tighten their grip on everyone else." "Maybe they're right to be scared," Tarek muttered under his breath, though loud enough for everyone to hear. "What happens when someone decides to abuse this thing? What happens when we do?" The question hung heavy in the air. No one answered immediately. Even Sentinel remained silent, its hologram flickering faintly as if sensing the weight of the moment. Finally, Ilara stepped forward, her voice firm but calm. "Listen to me, all of you. I didn't wake Aegis because I wanted power. I did it because this ship is humanity's legacy. It's proof that even in our darkest days, we built something extraordinary, something meant to protect, not destroy. But can we trust ourselves with it?" Tarek asked quietly, his eyes searching hers. "Can we trust you?" Ilara hesitated. The truth was, she didn't know. Every decision she made carried risks, and the stakes only grew higher with each passing hour. But giving up wasn't an option, not when so much depended on what they chose to do next. Before she could respond, alarms blared once more. Sentinel's interface flashed red, and its mechanical voice cut through the room. "Internal breach detected. Unauthorized access attempt in Section C7. "What?" Ilara barked, turning toward the AI. "Who's trying to?" Her question died on her lips as realization dawned. Someone aboard Aegis had just betrayed them. Kira was already moving, pulling her sidearm, and heading for the door. "I'll handle this," she growled, her usual sarcasm replaced by steely determination. "No," Ilara ordered, grabbing her arm. "We go together. Trust no one." As the group hurried down the corridors, weapons drawn, suspicion poisoned the air between them. Who among them had turned traitor, and why? When they reached Section C7, they found the culprit, a maintenance drone tampering with life support systems. Before anyone could act, it exploded in a shower of sparks, leaving behind fragments of alien tech embedded in its wreckage. "Council spies," Ilara said grimly, picking up a piece of the debris. "They planted someone on us before we left." The betrayal stung deeply, but it also hardened their resolve. If the galaxy wanted Aegis, they'd have to fight for it. And fight they would. News of Aegis reawakening spread faster than Ilara could have imagined. Within hours, encrypted transmissions from the Galactic Council flooded every communication channel in the galaxy. The once buried name of the legendary warship became a rallying cry for fear and greed alike. Bounty hunters, mercenaries, and even rogue factions scrambled to locate its position, drawn by promises of riches or power. For Ilara and her crew, there was no time to rest. After discovering the sabotage drone, they realized their enemies weren't just outside. They had infiltrated their ranks before they even set foot on Aegis. Every shadow seemed darker, every sound louder. Paranoia clawed at them, but Ilara refused to let it consume her. They needed answers, and fast. "Sentinel," she called out as the team regrouped in the control room. "Can you trace where that drone came from? Who sent it?" The AI's holographic interface flickered briefly before responding. "Data analysis complete. The drone bears signatures consistent with Council-manufactured tech. Probability of direct involvement, 97.3%. Ilara clenched her fists. She should have expected this. The Council always played dirty, especially when something threatened their fragile grip on galactic order. But planting spies among her crew, that crossed a line. "They knew we'd find Aegis," Kira said bitterly, pacing back and forth. "They must have been watching us since we left Earth. Hell, maybe they were watching long before that." "Which means they'll keep coming," Jax added, his voice low and grim. He leaned against a console, arms crossed. "We can't outrun them forever." Tarek sat quietly in the corner, his face pale. He hadn't spoken much since the betrayal was uncovered, but his eyes darted nervously around the room. Ilara noticed but didn't press him. For now, she needed everyone focused, not falling apart. "We don't run," Ilara declared firmly. "If the Council wants a fight, we give it to them. But not on their terms. We hit them where it hurts. Expose their corruption to the galaxy." Kira raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly do we do that?" "March up to their headquarters and slap them with evidence." Ilara smirked faintly. Something like that. Her plan was risky, but it made sense. Using Aegis advanced sensors, Sentinel identified a nearby supply convoy operated by the Council. These convoys carried resources essential for maintaining their fleets and enforcing their laws across the galaxy. If they could intercept one and broadcast footage of the Council's underhanded tactics, public opinion might turn against them. "It's suicide," Tarek whispered, shaking his head. "Even with Aegis, taking on a convoy is asking for trouble." "It's our best shot," Ilara replied, meeting his gaze. "We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. This is about proving humanity deserves better than living in fear of tyrants." Preparations began immediately. Sentinel mapped out the convoy's route, while Jax fine-tuned Aegis cloaking systems. Kira plotted attack vectors, ensuring they could strike quickly and retreat without leaving a trail. Meanwhile, Ilara reviewed intercepted communications, searching for anything that could bolster their case. When the time came, Aegis slipped into position undetected, its massive form invisible against the void of space. As the convoy passed below, Sentinel locked onto their targets. With a single command, the ship decloaked, unleashing precision strikes that disabled engines and disrupted shields. The convoy's escorts barely had time to react before Aegis overwhelmed them. "Broadcast live feed," Ilara ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. "Show the galaxy who's really pulling the strings." On dozens of worlds, screens lit up with images of the Council's private operations, illegal weapons, stolen resources, and blatant exploitation of weaker species. Outrage rippled through the galaxy, sparking protests and calls for reform. But the victory was bittersweet. As Aegis disappeared into deep space, Ilara knew the Council wouldn't forgive this humiliation. Their wrath would be swift and merciless. Still, as she watched the stars streak past the viewport, Ilara allowed herself a small smile. For the first time in centuries, humanity had struck a blow for freedom. and Aegis was far from done. The aftermath of the convoy raid left Aegis battered but intact, its crew shaken yet resolute. Public outrage toward the Galactic Council grew louder with each passing hour, fueled by the damning evidence broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time in decades, whispers of rebellion stirred among oppressed species and disenfranchised colonies. But for Ilara and her team, there was no time to celebrate or rest. While hiding in the swirling colors of a nearby nebula, Sentinel detected faint signals emanating from deep within the ship itself. The AI hesitated before alerting Ilara, as though unsure whether revealing this information might upset her already fragile state of mind. "Captain," Sentinel's voice echoed through the control room, calm but tinged with urgency. "I have located encrypted files stored in my core memory. They appear to be recordings." Ilara frowned, turning away from the viewport where she had been gazing at the nebula's shifting hues. "Recordings? From who?" "From the original creators of Aegis. My primary directives were designed based on their input. These logs may provide insight into my purpose and theirs." Intrigued, Ilara ordered Sentinel to play the recordings. The holographic interface shifted, projecting grainy images of men and women clad in worn uniforms. Their faces bore signs of exhaustion, but their eyes burned with determination. Each log entry revealed fragments of humanity's darkest chapter, a time when Earth faced extinction at the hands of alien invaders. "We built Aegis not just as a weapon," one scientist explained, his voice trembling with emotion. "It was our last hope. A machine capable of defending what little remained of us, but also preserving the ideals we once stood for." Another recording showed heated debates between engineers and military leaders. Some argued that Aegis should be used aggressively to reclaim lost territories. Others insisted it remain a deterrent, fearing its power would corrupt whoever wielded it. In the end, disagreements fractured Earth's governments, leading to Aegis abandonment. But the final log stopped Ilara cold. An engineer named Dr. Cale Armitage spoke directly into the camera, his expression grave. "If you're seeing this, then Aegis has been awakened. Know this: the ship is more than a war machine. Hidden aboard is experimental technology capable of restoring life to dead worlds. Terraforming systems never completed. Use them wisely, or destroy them if necessary." The screen went dark, leaving the crew in stunned silence. "So that's why they buried it," Jax muttered, breaking the quiet. "Not just because it could kill, but because it could heal." Ilara nodded slowly, her mind racing. If what Armitage said was true, Aegis wasn't just a relic of destruction. It was a beacon of renewal. But finding the hidden compartment wouldn't be easy. Sentinel confirmed that accessing it required solving complex puzzles tied to humanity's history, tests meant to ensure only those worthy could unlock such power. "This changes everything," Kira said softly, leaning back against the console. "We're not just running from the Council anymore. We're carrying something bigger than ourselves." Tarek looked up, his earlier fears replaced by cautious resolve. "What do we do now?" Ilara straightened, her gaze steady. "We find that compartment, and we decide how far we're willing to go to prove humanity still deserves a second chance." As the nebula's glow dimmed outside the viewport, the weight of their mission settled over the crew like a heavy mantle. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were searching for redemption. And somewhere aboard Aegis, the key to both awaited them. With renewed purpose, Ilara led her team deeper into the ship, ready to uncover the secrets hidden within its ancient walls. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: Aegis held the potential to reshape the galaxy, for better or worse. The hunt for the hidden compartment consumed the crew's every waking moment. Sentinel guided them through labyrinthine corridors and sealed chambers, each step requiring them to solve intricate puzzles rooted in humanity's past. The challenges tested not only their intellect, but also their unity. Tensions simmered beneath the surface as fatigue and paranoia took hold. Ilara stood at the forefront, her resolve unwavering despite the growing strain on her team. She knew time was running out. The Galactic Council had mobilized a massive fleet to track down Aegis, and bounty hunters lurked around every corner of uncharted space. Yet even with danger closing in, the thought of unlocking the ship's full potential drove her forward. Another riddle, Jax groaned, staring at a holographic interface that flickered to life as they entered a new chamber. Symbols representing Earth's ancient languages floated in midair, shifting positions like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. Seriously, can't this thing just give us a map or something? It's testing us. Ilara replied sharply, her tone leaving no room for argument. Whoever built these safeguards wanted to make sure only the right people could access what's inside. Kira leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching the display with narrowed eyes. Or maybe they just didn't trust anyone, not even themselves. Her words hung heavy in the air. Trust, or the lack of it, had become a recurring theme aboard Aegis. After discovering the Council's spy drone, suspicion lingered like an invisible shadow between the crew members. Even Tarek, who had started to find his footing, seemed quieter than usual, retreating into himself whenever decisions needed to be made. As they worked to decipher the latest puzzle, alarms blared suddenly, startling everyone. Sentinel's voice cut through the chaos. Life support systems compromised. Oxygen levels dropping rapidly. What now? Kira barked, rushing toward the nearest console. Her fingers flew across the controls, trying to isolate the problem. It's sabotage, Ilara said grimly, her instincts screaming before Sentinel confirmed it. Someone's trying to kill us. Jack swore under his breath, scanning the room for signs of tampering. Who could have done this? We're all here, aren't we? All eyes turned to Tarek, who froze, his face pale. He stammered, backing away from the group. I didn't do anything. Why would you think? Before he could finish, the lights flickered, plunging the chamber into darkness. Emergency lights cast eerie red shadows as panic set in. Ilara moved quickly, pulling up a schematic of the ship on her wrist console. Sentinel, locate the breach. Sabotage originated from Section D12, the AI reported. Tracing signal. Match found. Source identified. Crew member Tarek Valen. Tarek stumbled backward, shaking his head. No, I swear I didn't. But the evidence was undeniable. A small device clattered to the floor beside him. A transmitter linked directly to the Council. Tears welled in his eyes as he finally broke down. They forced me. Before we left Earth, they threatened my family. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but they said they'd kill them if I didn't cooperate. Ilara felt a pang of sympathy, but there was no time for mercy. With oxygen levels continuing to drop, she ordered Kira and Jax to secure Tarek while she worked with Sentinel to restore life support. Minutes stretched like hours as they fought to stabilize the system, narrowly averting disaster. When the crisis passed, the mood aboard Aegis shifted irreversibly. Tarek sat in silence, his betrayal etched plainly on his face. No one spoke to him, not out of anger, but because they couldn't bear to look at him without seeing the fragility of their own trust. We can't keep doing this, Kira muttered later, her voice hollow. Every turn brings another knife to our backs. Ilara nodded, her expression hardening. Then we stop waiting for knives. From now on, we fight back, harder. With renewed determination, they pressed onward, closer than ever to uncovering the hidden compartment. But the scars of betrayal ran deep, reminding them that survival wasn't just about defeating external enemies. It was about guarding against those within. And somewhere in the distance, the Council's fleet grew nearer, ready to strike. The crew of Aegis stood on the brink of discovery, their exhaustion tempered by a mix of dread and exhilaration. After days of solving cryptic puzzles and enduring relentless sabotage attempts, they had finally reached the hidden compartment deep within the ship's core. The chamber was unlike anything they'd seen before. Walls lined with pulsating conduits, glowing panels displaying intricate diagrams, and at its center, a massive cylindrical pod encased in shimmering energy fields. This is it, Ilara whispered, her voice tinged with awe as she approached the pod. Sentinel hovered nearby, projecting a holographic interface that analyzed the device. Analysis complete, the AI announced. This is the experimental terraforming module referenced in Dr. Armitage's logs. Activation requires significant energy reserves and precise calibration. Jax whistled low under his breath. So this thing can turn dead planets into habitable worlds. Dan, humanity really outdid itself back then. Kira crossed her arms, her usual sarcasm muted by the gravity of the moment. If we activate it, every faction in the galaxy will come knocking, not just to destroy it, but to control it. Ilara nodded grimly. She knew Kira was right. The power to reshape worlds wasn't something anyone could wield lightly or safely, but abandoning it wasn't an option either. If they could master the module, they might have a chance to undo centuries of galactic destruction and oppression. We don't have a choice, Ilara said firmly. If we don't try, all of this, everything we've been through, will mean nothing. With cautious optimism, they began the activation process. Sentinel guided them step by step, rerouting power from non-essential systems to fuel the module. As energy surged through the pod, the entire ship trembled, lights flickering violently. For a moment, it seemed like Aegis might tear itself apart under the strain. Then, without warning, the quantum singularity engine, a mysterious component buried within the ship's design, roared to life. It wasn't supposed to activate yet, but the surge overloaded its containment protocols. A swirling vortex erupted outside the viewport, pulling debris and asteroids into a chaotic maelstrom. What the hell is happening? Kira shouted over the alarms blaring throughout the ship. We've created a wormhole, Sentinel reported, its tone urgent. Stability unknown. Recommend immediate evasive maneuvers. Before Ilara could respond, Aegis lurched forward, dragged uncontrollably toward the anomaly. The crew scrambled to regain control, but the ship's systems were overwhelmed by the singularity's immense gravitational pull. In seconds, they were swallowed by the swirling void, emerging on the other side into an uncharted sector of space. The view outside was surreal. Alien constructs floated ominously in the distance, their jagged forms bristling with weapons turrets and glowing runes. Hostile drones swarmed toward them almost instantly, firing beams of energy that crackled against Aegis shields. This doesn't look friendly, Jax muttered, gripping his console tightly. Ilara clenched her fists, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Sentinel, bring all weapons online. Let's show them what Aegis can do. For the first time since awakening, the warship unleashed its full arsenal. Planetary-scale railguns fired devastating shots, obliterating entire clusters of drones with each blast. Adaptive shielding deflected incoming fire, while nunite swarms deployed from hidden compartments, dismantling enemy constructs piece by piece. But the battle came at a cost. Panels sparked across the bridge and sections of the hull groaned under the strain. When one particularly aggressive biomechanical dreadnought emerged, armed with plasma cannons capable of piercing even Aegis advanced defenses, the crew faced their greatest challenge yet. We can't take much more of this, Tarek said hoarsely, his hands trembling as he monitored shield integrity. Ilara hesitated for only a moment before making a decision. Sentinel, divert auxiliary power to structural reinforcement. We're sacrificing part of the outer hull if we have to, but we're not losing this fight. Chunks of armor plating tore away as Aegis redirected resources to reinforce critical systems. The maneuver bought them enough time to cripple the dreadnought with a concentrated barrage, sending it spiraling into oblivion. As the last drone exploded, silence fell over the bridge. Exhausted but victorious, the crew stared at the wreckage surrounding them. They had survived, but the scars left behind served as a grim reminder of the price of wielding such unimaginable power. Ilara leaned back in her chair, her face pale but resolute. We won, she said quietly, but I'm starting to wonder, does using Aegis make us any better than those who want to destroy it? No one answered. The question lingered, unanswered, as Aegis drifted silently among the ruins. The uncharted sector of space where Aegis had emerged was unlike anything the crew, or humanity, had ever encountered. Alien constructs loomed in every direction, their surfaces etched with glowing runes that pulsed rhythmically, as if alive. Sentinel sensors detected faint energy signatures emanating from these structures, suggesting they were not mere debris but parts of a vast, interconnected network. Before the crew could process their surroundings, a new transmission flooded the ship's comms, a deep, resonant voice speaking in a language no one recognized. Yet somehow its meaning became clear to each of them, bypassing linguistic barriers entirely. "You are intruders," the voice intoned. "State your purpose." Hilara stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "We mean no harm. Our ship was drawn here by an anomaly beyond our control. We seek only safe passage." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "You carry the seed of creation within you. Prove yourselves worthy, or face annihilation." Before anyone could react, the alien constructs began shifting, rearranging themselves into a colossal arena-like structure. Drones swarmed around Aegis, herding it toward the center. On the far side of the arena, another massive vessel materialized, a biomechanical dreadnought adorned with intricate carvings and bristling with weapons. "Great," Kira muttered, gripping the edge of her console. "Another fight. Didn't we just go through this?" Hilara shook her head, her eyes narrowing as she studied the scene. "This isn't about combat. At least, not entirely. They're testing us." As if on cue, a holographic projection appeared in the air above the arena. It showed 3 symbols representing different challenges: combat, diplomacy, and ingenuity. The message was clear. They would need to demonstrate their worth in all 3 areas to earn the right to leave. The first challenge came swiftly. A swarm of drones descended upon Aegis, firing relentless barrages of energy blasts. This time, however, brute force wasn't enough. Sentinel analyzed patterns in the attacks and identified weak points in the enemy formation. With precision maneuvers and tactical strikes, Hilara guided Aegis through the chaos, neutralizing threats without unnecessary destruction. When the dust settled, the second challenge began. A representative of the architects, an enigmatic being cloaked in shimmering light, appeared aboard Aegis. Through Sentinel's translation protocols, it demanded answers about humanity's intentions. Hilara spoke carefully, explaining Earth's history, the Council's corruption, and their mission to restore balance rather than dominate. Her words seemed to resonate. The being nodded slowly before vanishing. Finally came the test of ingenuity. The arena shifted again, presenting a complex puzzle involving interconnected circuits and energy flows. Jax and Tarek worked together, deciphering the mechanisms while Kira kept watch for traps. Their teamwork paid off, completing the task just as the timer ran out. At last, the voice returned. "You have proven resourceful, but there is one final trial." The biomechanical dreadnought activated, charging toward Aegis. Its weapons glowed ominously, promising devastation. Yet, instead of retaliating, Hilara made a bold decision. She ordered Sentinel to disable Aegis' own shields and expose a vulnerable section of the hull. "What are you doing?" Kira shouted, horrified. "They'll tear us apart." "No," Hilara replied calmly. "They won't." Her gamble paid off. The dreadnought halted its attack, seemingly impressed by her act of restraint. Moments later, the entire arena dissolved, replaced by a serene void filled with radiant light. "You have shown strength tempered by wisdom," the voice declared. "Proceed to the heart of creation. There, your true purpose awaits." As Aegis sailed toward the glowing nexus at the center of the sector, Hilara felt a mix of triumph and trepidation. They had passed the architect's tests, but what lay ahead might change everything. For better or worse, the galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere aboard Aegis, Sentinel quietly processed the events, wondering if even its creators had foreseen how far their legacy would reach. The heart of creation was a breathtaking sight, a colossal sphere suspended in the void, its surface shimmering with radiant energy that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Streams of light spiraled outward, creating an intricate web of cosmic patterns. It was here, at the nexus of creation itself, that Aegis faced its final trial. The architects had summoned not just one legendary vessel, but several, each representing different species across the galaxy. These ships were titans in their own right, embodying the pinnacle of their creators' ingenuity and power. Ilara stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the railing as she gazed at the gathering fleet through the viewport. Sentinel projected tactical data onto the holographic interface, highlighting the strengths and weaknesses of each rival ship. But numbers alone couldn't prepare them for what lay ahead. "This feels less like a test and more like a death sentence," Kira muttered, pacing behind her console. "How are we supposed to compete with all of them?" "We don't fight to win," Ilara replied firmly. Her eyes scanned the arena-like expanse forming around them. "We fight to prove something." Before anyone could ask what she meant, the architect's voice echoed once more. "The trials begin. Survive, adapt, and demonstrate your worth." The first challenge erupted without warning. A sleek alien cruiser accelerated toward Aegis, unleashing a barrage of plasma torpedoes. Ilara reacted instantly, ordering Sentinel to deploy countermeasures while maneuvering the ship into evasive patterns. Railguns roared to life, targeting the cruiser's engines with surgical precision. Within moments, the enemy vessel drifted powerless, but another took its place almost immediately. "They're testing our endurance," Jax said grimly, monitoring shield integrity. Panels sparked as impacts rocked the ship. "We can't keep this up forever." "Then we get creative," Ilara shot back. She turned to Tarek, who had been quietly observing the battle. "Tarek, work with Sentinel to recalibrate the nanite swarms. I want them repairing damage mid-fight." Tarek hesitated, still haunted by his earlier betrayal, but nodded and got to work. Minutes later, the nanites surged into action, patching breaches and stabilizing systems even as fresh attacks hammered the hull. The second phase shifted abruptly from combat to diplomacy. One of the Titans, a crystalline warship piloted by a telepathic species, emitted a psychic signal that overwhelmed the crew with visions of despair. Images of lost worlds, broken civilizations, and endless wars flooded their minds, threatening to paralyze them with hopelessness. Ilara clenched her teeth, fighting through the mental assault. "Sentinel, broadcast our logs. The truth about humanity's struggles and redemption. Show them we've faced darkness before and found a way forward." The AI complied, transmitting raw footage of Earth's fall, humanity's resurgence, and Aegis' journey. Slowly, the crystalline ship lowered its weapons, acknowledging their shared pain and resilience. Finally came the ultimate test, a biomechanical dreadnought unlike any they'd encountered before. Its size dwarfed Aegis, and its arsenal included gravity wells capable of tearing apart entire fleets. When it unleashed its full might, pulling debris and asteroids into a swirling vortex aimed directly at Aegis, the crew realized retreat wasn't an option. "We can't outgun it," Kira said, her voice strained. "And running won't save us." Ilara stared at the chaos unfolding outside, then made a decision. "Jax, reroute everything. Weapons, shields, life support, to the quantum singularity engine. We're going to overload it temporarily and use the resulting shockwave to disable the dreadnought." "You'll risk destroying half the arena," Kira protested. "And if we don't, we're dead anyway," Ilara countered. "Trust me." With seconds to spare, they executed the plan. The singularity flared brilliantly, sending a pulse of energy rippling outward. The dreadnought shuddered, its systems collapsing under the strain. As the dust settled, silence fell over the arena. The architect's voice returned, tinged with approval. "You have proven yourselves, not as conquerors, but as guardians of balance. Proceed." As Aegis moved toward the glowing sphere, Ilara felt a surge of pride and fear. They had earned the architect's respect, but the true cost of wielding such power remained unknown. And somewhere deep within the heart of creation, humanity's destiny awaited. The heart of creation pulsed with an otherworldly glow as Aegis approached, its surface rippling like liquid light. The crew stood in tense silence, their eyes fixed on the viewport. This was it, the culmination of their journey, the moment that would define not only their fate but humanity's place in the galaxy. As they entered the sphere, the ship was enveloped in a warm, golden radiance. The interior defied logic, appearing infinite yet intimate, filled with swirling constellations and floating fragments of alien architecture. At the center floated a massive crystalline structure, humming softly with energy. Sentinel identified it immediately. The terraforming core mentioned in Dr. Armitage's logs. But this version was far more advanced than anything humanity had envisioned, a device capable of reshaping entire star systems. This is incredible, Tensek whispered, his voice trembling with awe. For once, his guilt seemed to fade, replaced by wonder at what they had uncovered. Ilara stepped forward, her resolve unwavering despite the enormity of the task ahead. Sentinel, begin integration protocols. Merge your systems with the core. Warning, the AI responded. Integration will alter my primary directives permanently. I may no longer function solely as a warship. That's the point, Ilara said firmly. You were built to protect, to heal. It's time we lived up to that promise. The process began slowly, streams of data flowing between Aegis and the core. Panels across the ship lit up with new interfaces, glowing brighter as the connection deepened. Outside, the ship's exterior transformed, shedding its angular warship design for a sleeker organic form adorned with bioluminescent patterns. Weapons systems retracted, replaced by modules designed for environmental restoration. When the integration completed, Sentinel spoke again, its tone softer but still authoritative. I am now operational as a mobile Ark. Terraforming capabilities online. Shall we commence our mission? Ilara nodded, her heart swelling with pride. Yes, let's show the galaxy what humanity can truly do. Their first destination was a devastated planet on the edge of Council-controlled space, a world ravaged by centuries of mining and exploitation. Once lush with forests and oceans, it now lay barren, its atmosphere toxic and its surface scarred. As Aegis descended, Sentinel activated the terraforming module. Beams of energy lanced down from the ship, breaking apart pollutants and seeding the soil with microorganisms. Within hours, green shoots emerged from the cracked ground, followed by rivers flowing with clean water. News of the miracle spread quickly. Images of the restored planet flooded galactic networks, sparking hope among oppressed species and anger within the Council. Some factions demanded Aegis be dismantled. Others called for alliances with humanity. Public opinion shifted dramatically, with many viewing Aegis not as a weapon, but as a symbol of renewal. The Council reluctantly acknowledged the change, lifting its ban on Aegis and opening tentative negotiations with humanity. While distrust lingered, the balance of power began to shift, forcing even the most entrenched regimes to reconsider their policies. As Aegis sailed toward its next mission, Ilara gathered her crew in the control room. They were battered and weary, but united by a shared purpose. She looked at each of them. Kira's sharp wit, Jax's steady hands, Tarek's quiet determination, and felt a surge of gratitude. We've come a long way, she said softly. But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Sentinel chimed in, its holographic interface shimmering faintly. Query, what shall we name this era? Ilara smiled, gazing out at the stars. Call it the Age of Renewal. With that, Aegis disappeared into the void, carrying humanity's legacy and its hopes into a brighter future. Together, they would heal the wounds of the past and forge a new path among the stars. And though challenges awaited, one truth remained clear. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in destruction, but in creation. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy dared to dream of peace.